Hello everybody. So let's have a look at some code, shall we? We're going to be just running through a quick introduction. What is Scrapy? How to use it? How to use a Scrapy shell? And some other little features you might not have seen before. Here's the Scrapy documentation, scrapy.org. And let's just see what else. We're going to run Scrapy from the script rather than from the command line. And we're also going to be looking at XPATH and CSS selectors, very big subject, so we'll just look at that briefly. We'll be testing Scrapy shell, or testing with Scrapy shell, and then if you want some more documentation or look at some other YouTube channels, I recommend Maxim and Super Data Science. So let's get started. Let's have a look at what we're going to extract structured data from. It's imdb.com. DB stands for database. We're going to extract the data from the top 250 movies. So we've got a page here with 250 links. So each link then goes off to its own page, and on that page we then have information such as director, writer, stars, cast and so on, rating, storyline, user reviews. Anyway, from this one page we will do everything else that we are going to be coding. So I've opened this in Chrome. If you for those of you who don't know, I'll just briefly do this. I don't want to repeat what is widely available out there. So inspect, if you right click and do inspect, you will get the code in the Chrome developer, and then you can see the href, you can see the title followed by its unique ID, and it's inside a TD class called title column. Remember that. So when you're writing a crawler, you need to come in here and you need to gather these pieces of information. So you'll see when I actually write the code, you need to collect either for use as a CSS selector or an XPath selector. The key point here is it's a selector. You've got a choice. They both do the same job, but it's just different ways of yeah, skinning a cat, 2 ways to skin a cat. To start with, we want to get the list of hrefs from this page, which we will do when we pass the initial response. So we will be getting the TD class, the title.column, the attribute which will be the href, and we will be using, you may see extract used, or I'm going to be using get all. They do exactly the same job. Get all is get is the newer, more recommended way of getting, as opposed to extract. Get or extract are interchangeable. So get and extract are interchangeable, as are response.css or response.xpath. If you want to get the XPath, just right click here, copy, and then go down to copy XPath. It copies it to the clipboard. If you then do Control F and then paste back in, you'll see that is the XPath. The XPath, the 2 forward slashes, that means it's it don't start from the top of the DOM. The DOM is the document object model. Then just go straight to where the ID equals main, and then you go to the div, span, div 3, and so on. And yeah, it's not very human readable really, but it works, and you can just get it from doing right click, copy XPath. It's very specific, so you may find that response.css is often more straightforward, more human readable. Anyway, without further ado, let's start writing some code. So I'm going to switch over to the other screen, otherwise you'll be staring at that whilst I'm typing away, and that would, well, it might be more interesting, who knows. Anyway, first thing we want to do is import Scrapy. If you haven't already done that, you'll need to do pip install and the usual. I'm not going to go into how to do that, there's other stuff out there. Bear with me on knit. Talking and typing. From items import IMDB item. What we are doing here is we're making use of a file which the Scrapy framework creates for us called items.py, and it allows us to create containers for the data that we extract. I won't say any more than that at this point, we'll have a look in due course. I'm now adding the code to allow us to run the crawler from within this script rather than having to run it from command line. You may not always see this on a lot of sort of beginners tutorials, so quite useful this, because this combined with the 3 lines of code that we'll run at the end will allow us to run all this as a self-contained script without having to pass the parameters and so on. Just check that everything's case sensitive, obviously, well not obviously, but IMDB, we're going to create a class called IMDB Spider. You can call it whatever you want, you just need to use this name when you instantiate your class at the bottom of this, the bottom of the script. All will become clear in due course. So you have to create a class, or this is a subclass of, as you can see, Scrapy.spider, and we need to pass a name to it. So the name IMDB Spider. It's a Scrapy convention, you have to give it a name. Allowed domains, and we want to allow the crawler to go through anything on imdb.com. This stops it going off on other domains which it may find through its links. Yeah, next we add start URLs. This is a Scrapy requirement, so it won't work without this. And the start justifiably, because we need to know what we want to actually scrape. We want to scrape imdb.com /chart. So I'm just reading my other screen where I've still got the IMDb page open. And there we go, we want to scrape that. Right, this next bit, which you may or may not see on many, probably the majority of tutorials, you won't see this, but it's very useful, and it saves you having to specify the file name and format. You can enter many other things in custom settings, so well worth having a look. Feed format, and this is creating a dictionary, as you can see with the curly braces. Let's keep that lowercase. Comma, I need a comma because it's a dictionary. and then feed underscore URI. And let's break with tradition, and because it's initials, we'll call it capital IMDB 6V. Okay. Painful to type, I know, but the whole point is that will save you much typing in due course. There, it's done now. We won't have to type it when we run the script, which I think is fantastic. Right, next, let's just mention there's an inbuilt function called start requests, which if you don't explicitly type in your code, it will run anyway. So just know that it's there and that it's running in the background. I'm just going to copy this from my notes. There we go. I'll just format that a bit more correctly. Okay, and that gets the start URL, or URLs plural, because you could have many start URLs. We've only got one start URL because we're going to get the rest of the URLs from the initial page. Another Scrapy function we want to then use is parse and self and response. Why is response there? Response is there because it was gathered from start requests, and obviously, as I say, start requests runs regardless whether you explicitly type it or not. And we want to then say for each of the links, hrefs in. Now I'm going to use CSS here because it's neater. you saw the XPATH and it wasn't pretty, was it? So again, we're using the title column, which we can get from the CSS, and then we want to say get the attribute href, and then get all. You'll get familiar with the selectors. If you're not familiar with them, yeah, do a tutorial or two on Scrapy selectors. I'll put some links to Scrapy selector tutorials somewhere in the comments, not the comments, in the description rather. Once we've got all of those, with the response, we then want to send it back to Scrapy. So yield Scrapy request again is a method of Scrapy which handles the response, and we want to join the URL together with the rest of the IMDB part of the URL. So then we do callback equals, and now we're going to reference the next function. So we haven't written it yet, but we're going to put it in here. Movie. Okay. So what have we done so far? We've done our imports. We've created a class, a subclass of the Scrapy spider class. Within that class, we've created, we've specified what domains we want to scrape, and then we've created a parse method, and now we want to create a parse movie method, which will handle the response from the first method. So parse goes off to the IMDB page. Let me just bring that back across. So parse will get all the HTML from this page, and then we want to write a parse movie method, which will then extract the information from this page. Hope that makes sense. If not, you will see parse movie, and that uses self as always and response because it's using the response from the parse method. And okay, let's just quickly pause it there, and then we will begin looking at something called the items file, which is part of the Scrapy framework. So why are we looking at items? We'll be writing two files here today, only two. So the main Scrapy spider file and items being the other one, which is what we're going to look at now. As you can see, we're looking at the Scrapy documentation. Why do we use items? Well, convenient and familiar, Python dictionaries lack structure. It's easy to make a typo in a field name or return inconsistent data, and especially in larger project with many spiders. So, in the Scrapy framework, if you go up one level from your spiders directory, you will see items.py. Open up items.py and you can then create your own class, which is a subclass of Scrapy, Scrapy.item, and then we create our fields. So name, price, stock, tags, last updated. These are the Scrapy examples. So for us, we will be calling it IMDB item. Yeah, IMDB item we'll call it. And then instead of name, price, stock, tags, we will use title, director, movie director, directors, stars, so who stars in the film, popularity. Where are we getting those from? Well, from here. So director, writers, stars, anything you want really, popularity, reviews. So if we just look at those three, director, writers, stars, those three in bold there, we can then, in place of where you've got name, price, stock, we will then just go into our items file and we will put IMDB items there, and then we will put stars, directors, popularity, and so on there. And all of this bit on the right hand side will be the same. It's just scrapy.field. So if you're ready to do that, let's minimize this and just going to save this. So exit that, and if we edit items.py, helps if you put nano, doesn't it? Or name of your favourite text editor. I've already done this because you don't want to watch me type it. It'd be boring, wouldn't it? Import Scrapy. Class, so yeah, call the class whatever you want, but you will need to then make sure that you then you reference that same class name when you create an instance of it in your parse method, which is what we're about to do. So we're just saying title, director, writers, stars, popularity, all those. We're just saying that they're going to be Scrapy fields. Okay, so back to a spider. Let's just get rid of that, it's bugging me. Okay, so let's carry on writing. I've actually gone and got some of the XPaths and selectors already because it's quite time consuming and it's a bit of trial and error and it wouldn't make good viewing. I will just show you some testing of it with Scrapy shell in due course once we've written this. We'll finish writing this, I'll explain it all. And then I'll just go back over Scrapy shell and we'll go over the selectors, because the selectors, although they look quite complicated, once you've got the hang of them, they're sort of fairly self-explanatory. You just ask for a response from the selector, and then you either get one or you get all. So we've created, so we've imported from items, import the IMDB item class. So we're making item equal to that IMDB item class. So then we use item, we can use item from thereafter, and then we're going to say the title. So this is going to be what which Scrapy is actually going to be storing and then outputting to our output file, and it's going to get x.replace. Again, some of the stuff here will just be, or is, unique to the site you're scraping, as everything in Parse Movie is unique to what we're scraping, obviously. And here we just need to do a list comprehension to clean this up, so just bear with me on this. For x in, so we'll get a response. The next ones will be more straightforward, but just in case we have any Unicode characters such as XAO at the start, we just want to strip that off. So that's why we're using replace. We're replacing it with nothing. So 2 colons then the text, because that's what we want. We want the text because that's what we're going to store. We want to do get all. Again, you might see extract. Extract is the same as get all. Get all is the newer recommended thing. So yeah, we just want to get the first. Okay, so again item, and then again we're referencing the name, which will match what we've got in items.py file, which will hopefully match what is called on the IMDB site as well. So we're going to use XPath here. So the usual XPath format, which once you've used it a bit, you'll get familiar with. So we're looking for a div with a class called credit summary item. So this is what it was called by the people who wrote the website, and as I say, that's unique to this site. So, and unfortunately, over time, it may obviously change if they decide to modify their site. So, although this tutorial works today, hopefully, it may not work in the future. So, if you're watching this in the future, the concept is the same. You will just need to check your selectors. So what is a selector? A selector is everything to the right of the equal sign that we're writing here. So this is a selector. This is a selector. It's going out in identifying the bits of the response that we want to save and organize and structure and return to our customer, or us if we're the customer. Customer's a funny word, isn't it? I used to work in a business where they were called clients, sort of a luxury brand company, and they called customers were always called clients. To me, client is a computer IT word. I think you're probably just gonna get the gist of this here. So if it's okay with you, I'm just gonna paste in the rest of this because I've already got it, and you're not going to learn anything if I just keep talking and typing more and more. This is totally site specific. It may change, and the best thing to do is obviously update it, and whilst updating it, or use Scrapy shell, which we'll cover in a bit. Okay, so parse movie. It gets the response from the first parse, which gets all of the hrefs from the the chart of top films, and then with each of those, it does a callback, and then it sends that to parse movie, which then goes and retrieves the director, the writers, the stars, etc., and stores those in an item object, and that item object then gets returned, and it then eventually ends up inside this file in this format. So hopefully all this makes sense, and let's just finish this off. Code to make script run like normal Python script. So we say process. You could call it anything, but we call it process because that's sort of the standard. Crawler process. So we're starting the crawler, which is, this class is used by all Scrapy commands. Process.crawl. And then we have to pass a spider to Scrapy. So what spider are we going to pass? We're going to pass this spider. And then the final thing to do is tell it to run. Start. Actually, tell it to start, not run. Run is actually something else. those of you who are very observant, you may have noticed when I created the items file, my third spider file was actually in the same directory. That's because I'd moved it. Why did I do that? I did it when I was testing, and I've left it there. What it does mean is it means that I can just reference items. So I can just put from items import IMDB item. If I'd followed the Scrapy framework structure, my spider would be in a subfolder, and then let me just see if I can just find a diagram of what's happening. Scrapy installation. For the first time, you can do this Scrapy start project tutorial, and it will create a tutorial directory with following contents. So you'll see it actually makes these files for you, and your spider, you will start creating it in here. So all I've done is I've moved mine out of there moved it up one, so now it resides at the same level as items.py. It's just a lazy way of doing it, really. But right, without further ado, I think you probably would quite like to see this run. So we're going to call it, instead of the Scrapy format, which you will see, which would be, instead of Python 3 thirdspider.py, you would call it by using Scrapy, then Scrapy, then crawl, and then the name of the spider. So it'd be just be IMDB spider, no py on the end. It would just be the name. It reads the name from inside of the spider file, and then you would do space and -o for output, and then the file name and the format, and so on and so on. We've already put that inside here, so let's just run this and see what happens. And we've got a typo, believe it or not. That's most unsatisfactory, isn't it? Let's I'm just going to backspace that just to tidy it up. Okay, let's try again. What the very apologies. Let's typing and talking is not as easy as it looks. Inconsistent use of tabs. Yeah, that's because I pasted stuff in. Apologies for that. Python is very sensitive to indentation, as you probably know, so IMDB, oh, yeah, I know what I've done here. And you may have noticed the error, which was that I used lowercase because I was thinking about the name. This is the class name, so close that, and let's try and run it again. Process IMDB spider is not defined. Camel case. Right, we'll get there eventually. Why has this not worked? If you just bear with me, I think I know what this is. Yeah, as I thought. Let's just quickly sort that out. Right, sorry about that. Here we go. So let's have another go. We've now got a working network connection. And we have some output. I'm seeing errors. It's actually going very quickly on the screen, but let's okay. So it looks like it's probably a typo in my list comprehension. How do I know that? I'm seeing title, getting an error here. So let's just have a quick look and see what might be the cause there. And it's probably brackets for X in response CSS, title wrapper, H1 text, not get all. So that closes that. Just going to pause this a second and just check. Right, I think I've spotted something which is breaking or not allowing the title to be retrieved. There was a hyphen. Again, hyphen, underscore there, underscore there, underscore there, hyphen. Yeah, I think that's probably what threw me. Not really in the habit of looking for hyphens, although they appear there because that is an XPATH method. So, okay, let's save, try again. And I can still see an error. Why is that? I'll let that run and then we'll try it again. Okay, so I think I've tidied up some typos and some indentation. Let's try again. So just have a look at this debug error, 250. It's just one error per href. And again, it was something with the title. Let's just run it again. Yeah, I think it was the indentation. When I was collecting the selectors, I was pasting them into Sublime Text, and I think there was an indentation error, long story short. Yeah, so let's just have a quick look at the output. That was the whole point, wasn't it? So let's have a look at IMDB, see what we've got. So I'm just reading it in issues and more, but you could open it up in your favourite CSV spreadsheet program. Directors, popularity, rating, stars, title, writers. So director, Steven Spielberg, popularity 226. That's obviously out of, I don't know, how many people have reviewed it. Rating 8.6. Stars, Tom Hanks, Matt Damon, blah blah blah. Yeah, writers. That looks pretty good to me. There were a few errors, but there's always some fine tuning. You can go back and fine tune delay times. You can sometimes, if you've got a lot of results, you may have to manually just fix the odd one, whether it's an issue with Unicode or whatever. Yeah, that's pretty good. So that is the output and some structured data from a website. So I hope you've enjoyed this. It's taken quite a lot of time to make this video, so yeah, thumbs up, comment, subscribe, anything you like. Hope to see you again next time. Thanks, bye. Okay, so Scrapy shell. Let's do fetch. f1.com, a short URL, let's do that. So we've got 200, good, server response, 301 redirect because it's taken us to formula1.com, that's fine. So now let's do, let's see what we can get out of it. This is where we practice our selectors. So let's do CSS, and a very nice one to start with will be response.css. Let's get the title text and then just do get, and you can see we've got the title from the response. So that is a very basic selector. So you would use that in your spider, and your item from your items class would be item square brackets quotes title close brackets equals response.css title 2 colons text dot get. Let's get all of, so that's just some text, that's a bit dull, isn't it? Let's get all, and let's get all of the hrefs. So you need to do 2 colons attributes href, and have we got the right number of brackets? Yes, we have, and we just need to close that. And you can see we've just gone off, and I'll just scroll back up a bit. We've gone to the F1 website, and we have extracted every single href from their homepage. So already you can start to see the power of it, because we could then collect all of the hrefs and go off and scrape those hrefs to find more pages. If I did just get, I'll show you. Get is like extract first, so it gets the very first one. So I'll show you. If we did get, or we could do extract first, they do exactly the same thing. And instead of doing get all, we could do extract, and extract would do exactly the same thing as get all, and there you go. So hopefully that's been a little intro to exit. You just need to do that. So Scrapy shell, all that will flash before your eyes, and then you will see the in and then the square brackets, and that's where you start. And you can see these commands. So first off, you want to fetch a URL, and then you've got various other commands. You can view in a browser as well. So